think we're unmuted, Liz. I think.
Are you sure?
It's about that
can't
time.
Keep talking bad about ourselves.
About ourselves, yes. Good times. All right. We have stopped. Why am I have the wrong thing on this? Is what I want to know. This is not the textures class.
No, it is not.
This is something else. That's okay. We'll just stop looking at my thing. It's supposed to be freehand. I thought I put that on there, but apparently I did not. So there you have it. Thank you for joining us this lovely Sunday night. And today I will be going over a couple different freehand sort of patterns, like some cool stuff that you could put on your Brimstone miniatures just to kind of spicing them up and all that good stuff. So, what do we got here? What do we got? I grabbed the Rancher Girl, my Rancher, and I've also got this girl, the Sorceress. She will be doing some sorcerizing. So I grabbed these two because first I'm going to put the color on this one. I'm going to put some blue on the back of this one. And then while that's drying, I can start putting some texture or some freehand patterns on this one. So sort of simple stuff. We'll start with more simple and we will get into more complex. I guess I should ask, can everyone hear me?
Oh yeah, can y'all hear us?
Yeah, that would probably be a good thing.
Yes.
Maybe.
Okay.
Yes, maybe.
Yes.
So?
I was
right.
like,
Nobody
maybe?
can hear us. Yeah. All right, cool. Well, that's a good thing because that would be really embarrassing to do this whole thing and no one knows that we were here.
Oh, no, they knew that we were here.
Well, they know that we're here, but they just couldn't hear us.
Yeah.
And I know that would be,
The other here.
in some cases, a fate worse than death. So I will put some paint on my palette. We're going to do red. And that. And so I want to give her sort of an reddish orange kimono. That brush is really dried out there. So I'm going to use my number 8 hobby brush. This thing is epic. And also like 49 cents, which makes it even better. Usually I start with one side of it and then I'll switch to the other side. So I'm just going to put this red down here at the bottom. Just like that. And I'll grab my orange. Also inadvertently loading up on red again at the top. Good times. It's all cool. Got it. Just like that. Just like this. I'm going to add a little bit more orange up here.
Wet blending.
Wet blending for the win. Just going to get that in there like that.
Your head. Oh, you forgot to move.
I did forget to move the thing because we did the other thing immediately, and so I didn't have a chance to do any of that stuff. Let me move this like this. Maybe that will help a little bit. Oh look, I can get really almost close. Really far in there. It's a little bit too close. Oops. I swear to God, eventually it will come into focus.
There
Alright,
it goes.
so we did that. Let's do the back, just for the fun of it.
You come over to the left a little bit.
Oops. It's the only problem when we get really focused in, these really small miniatures, you have to get really close with the camera. And then you have a tendency to go right out of frame. That's alright, we'll get it. We'll get it here. So when you're wet blending colors like red and orange, there's a tendency the colors will be a little bit see-through, even though I did not thin my paint at all. These colors are going to be a little bit see-through, and they're going to need to get a couple coats. So it's good we're doing this at the very start of the class, because I'm going to have to do at least 2 coats in this to get it up and running.
I'm not gonna lie, I thought that was pants on that leg.
Oh yeah? Nope, it's the other side of her kimono. Alright. I do kind of like the way that's cascading down. God, what is this? It's like a little bit of plastic right there.
Oh my gosh, and this is where Aaron cuts himself.
Yeah.
Or
not.
on air.
I don't know what the heck that was. I mean, there's no sprue down there. I must have gotten something stuck to it when I primed it. I primed these outside, and it is fall, like big time. And so sometimes stuff happens. Stuff falls in your model, gets stuck to the primer, and then it's just there. Okay, so let's let that dry. That's my first initial base coat. Let's let that dry. I'm going to show you kind of how I did this blue. The blue went on real quick. I like it. So I'm using some of that, the Portal blue and white right here. All right. So I want it darker blue towards the back and in the bottom of the dress. This will also help with the freehand that we're going to put on here to show up a little bit better. So we'll just start with the blue by itself. I'm putting it on quickly, but I'm not moving my brush too fast. I'm moving my brush slowly enough to where, because there's lots of little folds in this dress, I want the blue to go down in all those cracks and crevices and all that good stuff. So kind of going back and forth. Sometimes I speed up a little bit if I can, but otherwise we're just going to put that in like that. I'm going to grab a little bit of white here, mix it in with my blue just a little bit so we get a lighter blue. And put it at the top of the dress. Move it right into that darker blue that we had put on before. Like that. We'll probably need a second coat, but we're good. This front side is pretty good as it is. It's already dried up. All right, so what I did on the, or something similar that I did on the studio version, was we put some lines on here because I thought it would be kind of cool, like old school farmer garb, I guess. I don't really know what farmer garb is, but you know, that's what I call it. So we're gonna mix up a little bit of our blue into a really light blue. So I don't want it completely white because I want white to be my last color to go down. We're going to get that. I'm going to grab just a little bit of water, so I'm going to thin it just a little bit so it flows a little bit better. And let's move this camera so you can see that blue a little better there. Right there. All right. So we've got this color. Now the trick here is we're going to want to put a straight line all the way down here. I want my first line, and then we're going to put little dots on top of it. I'm actually going to switch out my glasses with my reading glasses because this is going to take some close-up. Some close-up viewing. All right.
I'll try to watch your head, make sure.
Yeah, you watch my head. Give me we need a head bell or something. Bing, bing.
Oh my gosh, people would get so annoyed.
Yeah.
Just sitting up
Quit
here reading
dinging
like
the bell.
Cowbell.
Okay. Yeah, you know what this paint job needs? More cowbell. All right. So I missed a couple little areas at the bottom right here, and I've got to refocus. There we go.
Wow.
Look at him go. Just want to make sure I got my blue all the way down to the bottom edge there. All right. So what we need to do, we need to draw a line down the bottom edge of this robe, this dress. It's not a robe. And it's like when you've been fantasy painting long enough, like everything's a robe, isn't it?
Yes. If it's long and flowy, it's a robe.
It's a robe.
Or a cloak. Tommy wants to know, do you use Flow Improver here?
You could, but I don't. I just use a little bit of water and I work quick. Flow Improver would work to an extent because it helps just keep the paint flowing a little bit better. I put a touch of water in here and I think that's all I need. So the one thing we need to do, you need to flatten out your brush again. We talked about this in the last class to turn it into kind of a chisel like that. That's a super thin brush right there. Now I did it on my finger, but usually I just do it on my palette. And now we have a really thinned out line that we can put, or a thinned out brush that we can put a line at the bottom of this girl's dress. What I need to do, trying to keep this line as close, the same distance from the edge of the dress all the way along the dress. So, do this. Now this dress is kind of funny. It kind of clicks up like this. So you can do one of two things. You can make that line straight, or you can actually come in and make it like this. I think in the studio version, I actually made it kind of just a straight line all the way around because it looked a little bit better. But let's follow this dress exactly. This. So see how it's going to start stepping like that? Step, 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 as the dress turns. I'm trying to keep it the same distance on each one. So that keeps a consistency in that line. Just like that. So I did it one way. I did it this way, so I got to come back in, and now we got to fill in all the spots that we missed. So like when I was going this direction, I could only go so far on that fold. So I'm going to come in like this. And just fill in the parts of the line that I missed. Sometimes you need to go from both directions. If you try to get all the way in from one direction, sometimes you'll end up having to push too hard or whatever, and it makes a bad line. So now that I've got that, I'm going to... I just realized too, I have my hand on the back of this model where I just painted. Oh, good, it dried. That would have been super bad if I hadn't done that. Just taking paint off one day at a time. All right. There we go. We got that line on right there. I'm going to go ahead and put 1 second coat on this side. So you always, I had an old boss that used to tell me, he's like, Aaron, always make something wait, always have things waiting for you. Don't be waiting for anything. I think that was just his way of telling me you need to work more. But I've always taken that to heart when I'm, even when I'm miniature painting. So I'm always trying to set stuff up beforehand. So if I know that I'm going to have to wait for this paint to dry, I'm going to do it in a way that I can paint something else while this paint's drying, and I don't have to wait as long. Or when I'm ready to paint the side of the dress, it'll be good to go. So we get this blend. These wet blends don't have to be perfect. I used to always think that they had to be perfect, the first time down, but it actually, if you put a second coat on, usually that's when it starts getting more perfect. that. Let me go one more time from this side. All this paint's still wet, so it's just a matter of going back and forth till it kind of does what you want it to do. So dark blue to lighter blue. Again, it doesn't matter if it's completely perfect because we still got to put dirt on this. We got to put the rest of the freehand patterns, all that. So we've got that first layer in there. We're letting the back dry again. I'm going to try not to put my finger in it. That is the $10 question. Will Aaron put his finger in there? All right. So now I want to start making that line a little bit thicker. So I'm going to grab a little bit more water to thin it. And we're going to make this line just a hair thicker. Mainly just so you can see it a little bit better. This also teaches you a little bit of skill of, redrawing right over an old line and making that line a little bit thicker. So I'm making it like double thickness from what it was. Tried to make it pretty much almost as thin as I could. Now I'll make it a little bit thicker. Like that. We'll go like this. So I've got more white in my paint now. And I'm going to hit from the front areas. Go back. Maybe not the entire length of the line though. It's more highlighted on the front fold there. Let it run out. My paint just kind of runs out. This one has two big folds, so I'm going to highlight both folds. This one a little bit in the front. That's it. This one a little bit in the front. Like that. Maybe I can go just almost straight up white. Like that. These final highlights, especially in the back of the dress where it's a little bit darker, I'm literally just hitting the front of the fold right there. Like that. I think that looks pretty cool. If I wanna manipulate that blend going back, I can always come in from the other direction, start my brush stroke back here in the highlight, and then I just slowly work my way back in the blend. This is a little bit scarier way to paint because usually I'm painting from the front to the back and I'm running out of paint. Now I'm painting kind of from the back to the front, and I have to be more careful with how much paint's on my brush. That kind of gives you that little line down there. I also did little lines up here. I did little dots on them. I just wanted to show you just a straight line to start with. A line with dots on it. Get a little bit more water into my paint. And so this one's going to be a little bit different. We're not necessarily going to highlight things. So I want it to just show up on its own. So let's start like right here. And with this one again, I want a really thin line, as thin as I can get it. I'm trying to keep it equal distance to the bottom line and still curve around the dress. So you wanna just really watch it. You're going to have to start curving right here. And again, if you can't get into these cracks and crevices, don't worry about it. Just skip that area and you can come back and hit it a little bit later. Oops. Wipe that off. You didn't see that. Liz, close your eyes. Close your eyes.
There we go.
Alright, so we're going to come in like this. And come around the back. Something like that. Do these front ones that I missed. Now, one thing about freehand, if you mess up and you kind of go too thick for a line, like say over here, might be a hair too thick, you can always grab a regular blue color. You need to go not so thin, not so white. I can come back in and just kind of push that line back. It's a little bit harder when you're working with in between a blend, but you can pretty much every time find a color that's suitable to cover up. So you always need like a cover up color. Come back in, make that line just a little bit cleaner. Just like that. Any questions so far? All right.
If y'all have questions, there is a Q&A button at the bottom of the screen. You can click on that and then add your question there, and then I'll ask Aaron
25 minutes later.
25 minutes later, maybe.
when no one knows what we're talking about anymore.
When Aaron takes a breath.
Yeah. So now we need to make little bitty dots. So I loaded up my brush. I actually have more paint on there than you would think you would need. And basically, I'm going to try to get it to where I put it down and just barely hit the tip, and it leaves a little bitty dot. I talked too long there, so it all dried.
Mm-hmm. Saw that.
That's why you got to work quick. So. And if you've seen my the Bandita, the new studio version of the Bandita, she has like a crazy embroidered effect on her hat. And this is kind of how I did it. I drew my lines out first, and then I put a lot of teeny tiny little dots. And the trick here is trying to get all these dots the exact same size. So otherwise it looks really weird if they're all different sizes. They need to kind of be the same distance apart. So kind of what I'm doing is I'm putting the dot in there and I'm wiggling my brush around kind of in a circular motion. It's a very small circle, but it's a circle nonetheless. Get all of these in here like this. And I try not to breathe at all, ever. This. Oh, that one was way too big. So either A, we try to take it off. Get my brush with water. What do you know? Perfect. Solution B would have been to get my darker blue color and put it right over it. But we lucked out. Got that on there. So I'm gonna keep doing this. I'm really trying to keep the tip of my brush as a point, if at all possible. And once I get a good dot, I try to work my way down that line as quickly as I possibly can, because all the time that paint is drying on the tip of my brush. So if I can keep painting it, it keeps grabbing the next set of paint and bringing it forward. It's So I just do as many dots as I can. Like this. Try never to put dots right on top of each other because that's really hard to do. You see, I have like a whole bunch of dots in a row that were bad. Welcome to the life of a miniature painter. Go back in. This is actually good. I need a little bit darker color, I think. It's really hard judging the color that you need, but I'm just going to try. See, that's about the color I have. I'm looking for a color right in there. So maybe this will work. Yeah, I think it did, actually. What do you know? It's a lucky day. I'm going to go a little bit darker. So I could just obliterate these all together, or I could try to make little lines in between each dot. Reform all those little dots. All right, did those ones. Water, grab a little more paint. Just keep working it.
I feel like I'm going cross-eyed looking at your dots.
Yeah, they're really small. I am cross-eyed looking at my dots. So it is what it is. Sometimes if you can skip dots, like down in areas where it's a little harder to get to, skip those and then come back and do them later.
Yeah.
So if you're kind of motoring through, it makes it a little bit easier. So if you get stuck in a spot and you're just like trying to get that little dot, like your paint's going to dry on the tip of your brush, it's going to be hard. So I can come back in here. I've got a little spot missing right there. So I can come back in and either A, mess it up, or actually get a dot in there. I got a dot in there. Yay! Rock and roll. Getting sloppy. Bush League, Liz. Bush League.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. Okay, that's all right. And that's the thing when you're painting miniatures, like it's really hard to be on all the time. Like you've got to be able to, I don't know, you got to be able to know that you can mess up and come back and fix things. So with freehand especially, you're always coming back and fixing things up. So we got that. Let's do one more little line. I know you're just all loving watching me paint dots for 4 hours.
Wait, 4 hours?
Yeah. We're doing this for 6.
Oh my gosh.
No. False. So this one I did a little further away. So like maybe if I was, maybe I'd do 2 small stripes up here and then 2 right there. So I'm doing a little further away. It's a little bit harder. The further you get away from another line, the harder it is to keep that equal distance between the lines. But if you just kind of do a little bit at a time, keep eyeballing it, I think you're gonna get it pretty close. Like that's pretty close to perfect. And that's all we can ask. Like that. Grab some more white, a little bit more water. I think that was the other thing. I put in more water and it kind of started flowing too much. So you don't want the paint to flow too much because you need that tight little dot. And I'm going to start right in the middle, I think. just don't breathe. Ever. The thing you really can't see is the little bitty wiggle I give my brush each time it touches down and I see the paint transfer onto the model. Just wiggle a little bit, and that hopefully makes my dot a little round, hopefully. I also noticed that because my paint's a little bit thicker, it goes on in one hit. Like, could you imagine having to redot these dots? That would not be good.
I think I'm just going to start seeing dots when I start looking everywhere now.
Could be. Alright. These are a little bit wonky in the back, but I think that'll be okay for now. We'll let it go.
Is that what you'll do?
Yeah, these front dots are hard to see, so of course that's a problem because it looks like I didn't put any dots there even though I did. So I'm going to come back in with my white, like pure white, and just re-hit these spots and hopefully it shows up. If you noticed, the white from the Shadows of Brimstone white is really thick. And I know some people were like, oh, I don't like that. I actually love it for that reason. Because in cases like this, I need that paint to go on in a specific spot, really opaque. You can't tell that that's a thick dot, but see, now we can see those. So that looks pretty cool. All right. Let's put one last little highlight down here at the bottom. I like pushing it a little bit. So we'll do one there. And one across there. Here. Here.
Wow.
That looks pretty cool. Looks alright. I don't know. Looks very country, right?
It does.
Does it? Cool.
It kind of move it up a little bit. It kind of reminds me of like
Little House on the Prairie or something, or
oh,
no?
I was gonna say bed sheets, but yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like bed
That's right.
sheets on like a line outside. That kind
Yeah.
of country. That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah, that is kind of cool.
But yeah, Little House on the Prairie.
All right, so you got your little freehand on there. Now to make her look really legit, too legit to quit. Uh-huh. We're gonna add some dirt effects. We did this in the last class. We're gonna do it again. But first, so I don't get past ahead of myself, this is dry. And we need to put a second coat on it. So she's ready for some kimono patterns. Alright. I'm gonna grab some orange, put it up here at top. Run it down, maybe all the way. Kind of just let my paintbrush run out. Kind of a cool technique. Just run out of paint. That's how you blend. People are like, yeah, right.
No. Your friend Nate said, watching Aaron teach freehand is very Bob Ross. I'm all relaxed and happy little trees right now. I hope that doesn't mean you're going to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Because that would be...
Because I'll be right there with you.
Yeah.
All right.
Esteban said, I'm also feeling very Bob Ross, but all happy mistakes.
Yeah. I think if you worry a little bit less about the mistakes while miniature painting, it definitely makes... I spent the first probably 10 years of my painting career worrying about mistakes. And it made for a very worrisome time.
A what? A what?
Worrisome.
There we go.
Worrisome.
Worrisome.
You had me at
I know. I feel like you're chasing the model around the screen.
Yeah. Alright. This. A little bit of this and a little bit of that. There we go. Alright. Good enough for government work. Again, remember, the blends don't have to be completely perfect because we're putting patterns on top of them. So who cares? Like, it really doesn't matter. Unless you're practicing getting your blends completely perfect. That would be a time that you would care. But for now, we're good like that. So, let's put this on. I'm painting really fast. Got a little bit of this brown. I'm going to bring it up here. We got a big old open space. I'm going to put some of the orange in there because remember we made orangey brown last time. So I'm making that real orangey brown. I need a little bit of black in there to make it a little bit darker. Of course my black lid is clogged. Grab a little bit of that black. Put it into our brown. Maybe a little bit more orange. I like that orange. Like me some orange, Liz.
Ooh, orange juice sounds good.
Yeah, it does. And it's nutritious. Alright, so for this, I'm using 2 brushes. I'm using one brush to apply the paint, one brush to take it off. So it's a damp brush. It's not wet, but it's damp. And once I get the paint on the model, I'll take that brush and like if my paint's right here, I start up here and I work my way down into that paint, move it around and off the model. The other thing is I'm always trying to find an exit strategy. So a place on the model that I can move that brush off without just picking it up. Because you know when you pick it up, it will leave a mark. So we don't want that. Again, I'm using my paint relatively thick. And I want the bottom of her dress to be dirty, but not too dirty. So, put that on, start outside of it, move it back in. This is a little bit different or weird because I have 2 layers of clothing. You like when I talk with a brush on my mouth? Sounds really cool. I'm a banana.
Oh my god.
Alright. That. We'll put some right in here. Kind of go up the fabric a little bit. Now I'm putting this texture right over the freehand too. So it's all going to be a little bit see-through. It's still pretty cool. So the trick is not to wipe it all away. You want some areas that are very sort of orangey so that you can see it. If you can't see it, you might as well not have done anything. So I had a little bit of that dirt going up that fold. We'll put a little bit of dirt in the back of her dress back here. Maybe she fell, or she just never cleaned it right there.
Or she wiped her hand.
Yeah, maybe she wiped her hand. Her gun leaves a little bit of dirt mark there. So I think adding these little bits of life really spruce up your model for sure. Like that. Can always take, what color do I want to use? I don't know. I really like this tentacle blue because it's like a teal color. So I'm thinking of a shadow for this blue dress. I put tentacle blue down. Tealy blue is just a really good shadow color. So I'm going to mix up a little bit of that with some black to get like a really dark tealy blue. And we can just start pulling this right up these folds really lightly. Didn't really thin this color too much actually, but it seems like it's doing okay. It's not too drastic. And I want to just bring it up right up these big folds especially, so that I get a little bit more contrast, a little bit more light and dark stuff going on. And I'm doing this right over the freehand too. So that way my freehand kind of follows the same shadows and light patterns that the rest of the dress does. Go right in here. That. I feel like maybe I could have a couple more of these up here. So a little bitty ridge right there, a little bitty ridge right here. You don't necessarily have to have big shadows in here, but sometimes I put it in and then I'll glaze over in my highlight color one more time to kind of knock it back. But I like you to be able to see the detail. So that's one of those things that I'm constantly pushing back into my models, is finding shadows and highlight areas and accentuating them. This one, there's actually quite a bit. Man, there's just so much detail in this dress. There's lots of little folds in there, little micro folds. You don't have to hit all of them, just some of them. This, kind of bring my blue back. Question?
Mm-hmm. Well, kind of.
Kind of.
More of a comment. Paul says, I hear you, but what I struggle with is how to keep a consistent pattern that looks the same on the front, back, and sides of the figure.
Right. So one, if I was doing this one right here, I knew that my line is about that far off at the bottom on every single run. So that's where I do on this side. I come on this side, and even though I can't see the other side, I know that it's supposed to be that much. You know, you kind of just got to memorize it. The good news is on the back side of the figure, you're not going to know the difference. It's much easier to do when you got an edge of the fabric. Obviously, this middle line right here is going to be a little bit more difficult. So there's a couple things that you can actually do. If I had a piece of paper, I would show you. Let me just grab this little piece of paper up here. All right, this is super ghetto. So you can measure with a piece of paper. So you can measure how far from the edge of the dress to that first line, or the second line up there, right? So if it's right there, let's say it's right. Let's say it's right here, is the first stripe that we've got. Let's say the second stripe is right here, okay? So when we get to the other side of the model, of course you have to hold the paper the same way. And you can actually measure up on the model. So I'm just going to throw this in here. Now this isn't going to be perfect, but it's going to get you kind of perfect. So I got that right there. I just have to be really careful. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some anchor points. I do this on regular freehand as well. So I got a line I've got the first line right there. The second line is going to be right here. So I'm going to put a little dot. The third line is going to be right there. So those are my lines. Then I'm going to go over here using the same form. This is actually a really good question. I'm glad you asked that question. It's awesome. So do it right there. This one over here. It's going to keep going. And granted, we might have to change this a little bit. It might, sometimes if you put it in the exact correct spot, sometimes it looks weird. It looks wrong. You have to change it a little bit. But at least this way, so this gets me an idea of where all those spots are going to be. And then I can come back in. Now granted, each one of these little nubs is probably too big. But I can come around and go, okay, so this one lines up perfectly with that one. I guessed on that one and it was perfect. How did I do that?
I don't know.
That's amazing. Man.
But that second line is not.
Does it not line up? No, it doesn't line up. Okay, so that would be a problem. But I do know that looking at this one, it's right here. So let's just say we royally screwed up, right? You did your little thing. You're like, shoot. But each one of these dots is the same height off that first line. So I know that we went down like one width. So I'll just go down like one width on each one. This one looks wrong. This one looks right here. So I'm just going to leave it where it is. Like I said, sometimes you just got to fake it.
Fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it, baby. All right. So we'll put this in like that. That still looks kind of weird. Well, I don't know. Swing this in that way. I'm going to grab some of my darker blue color and erase the bottom of this. I'm going to show you how to make straight like stripes on a pair of pants too, because that's really difficult, but I got a trick for that too. Go like that. Maybe bring in there we go. So on this bottom line, I'm going to do the bottom part of the line there. So I'm looking at these lines, but I'm also looking at the distance right here to make sure it stays pretty much the same. This one looks low. So maybe we'll go up a little bit. So it's much easier to eyeball between dots than it is to just paint a line and then hope that it worked. So let's do this. Let's cover up these dots. A little bit of our blue. We'll cover up that one. Might have to do it again, but at least that starts the process. Looks a little bit better. So I'm looking at this right here, and it dips down. So I think I want my line to dip up. That. I like that much better. At this point, I should probably keep measuring, but I think I can maybe pull this off by starting my line over here and just pulling it to the other side of the hump there. And this is where your life gets hard, because you got all this stuff in the way basically. So I'm gonna, and it's not like you could like not assemble that part of the model. It's all on the model before you even start. So okay, so I just spun that around. I think that looks pretty cool. Pretty close to perfect. Almost said pretty close to okay. You've made it, son. You're okay. I just wanted to be an okay painter this whole time, and I've achieved it.
You have achieved okayness.
Yeah. So that's how I would kind of keep that going that way. You see, it started off, it was a little bit bad. I used my paper. I put dots in. You could put a lot more dots in. You could actually, go every rung if you wanted to. I think it's a little bit much, but you could, whatever keeps you safe. I know when I first started, I was a lot more dependent on those dots. You actually get pretty good at eyeballing things after a while. It just is what it is. You put a little bit. This blue right here. Just keep covering up those dots till I can't remember where they were. Just like that. Again, this one right here, it could have curved up a little bit further even, I think, but you know what? I'm all right with it. You all right with it, Liz?
I'm okay with it.
Okay. So once you get that line in there, then it's just a matter of putting those tiny little dots in there, and that's the next fun thing. So how would you go about making stripes in pants? Let's find a pair of pants that's better. Goodness. These pants are perfect because these pants are really difficult. This is going to be the funniest looking gunslinger ever.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, here we go.
Just do one leg.
I'm just going to do one leg.
Time for the kimono.
That's right. What kimono? I'm just kidding.
I was like, what?
Wait, what?
Wait a minute.
Okay, so here's the trick. So you're making stripes down these legs, right? We're gonna make her into a clown, basically, or a pirate. She's a pirate cowboy. So, can I wait?
It wasn't focusing on the model. It was focusing on your fingers.
Yeah, it's in as it's in a permanent focus. So I just have to move my hands. So I'm going to start with the line down the front. And again, I'm going to make it really as thin as I possibly can. And I want to put that straight down the leg. Right down the knee. Here. Sometimes you got to be careful as the pant leg curves and kinks. Sometimes that line will curve and kink as well. You just have to be conscious of that. Right there. See how it's kind of curving around these bell bottoms just a little bit. I think that looks natural. So I got a straight line in the front. That's it. So what normally happens is then you go, okay, well, I need a bunch of straight lines. So I'm going to start the next one. I'm going to be right here and do that. What I'm saying is do this. Now we need a straight line down the center of the other side of the leg. So you're going to cut the leg into 4 parts. And believe me, the most fun part will be the inside leg because it is really hard to get to. Good times, my friend. So this is a perfect thing to show this on because look at the leg is much thinner up here than it is down there. What?
I was laughing at you.
You're just laughing at me.
You got frog voice.
Frog voice, yes. Can you tell I've been talking all weekend? I just like to talk. Sometimes I talk to myself in the car.
Well, that's true.
And I don't even go anywhere. I just go out to the car and talk.
That would be super funny.
That would be funny. What's your dad doing? Oh, he's out in the car yammering again. All right. So we made 4 stripes. 3 stripes. 3 stripes, you're out. We will make 4 stripes, I swear to you. On Thor's gauntlet. We're not going to make the 3rd stripe. Holy cow, that's going to be really hard to get in there. The 4th stripe. But you know what? We are going to do it because I'm not going to quit on you people. Okay.
That's the right attitude.
That is the right attitude. Okay, so I got it in there. So we got our 4 stripes. And we're done.
Ta-da!
You're welcome. No. Okay, so you're going to want to put stripes in between those stripes. So that being the case, I wouldn't make these stripes any wider than they already are. This stripe is off right here. by the way. Just so, in case you were thinking, hey, Aaron, that stripe's off. It is. So this would be where you'd paint your pant color back on and readjust that stripe right there so that it gets in line with this stripe and that stripe. So these stripes are probably as thick as they can be because look at how thin that line is right there. And we want all these stripes to be about the same width and have hopefully the same width in between them. So I'm going to then split these lines in half as well. And as you come down, you just got to be really careful that, so it's centered between those two lines, you got to keep it centered here. So you're not going to be the same distance on this line or the same distance on this line. It's actually going to grow in distance on both sides. If any paint will come off your brush.
It's because you talked.
Right. I got to shut up.
Mm-hmm. I'm just kidding. Don't shut up.
We have the Aaron GoFundMe fund. help my boyfriend be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Send us money.
No.
We're just kidding. Oh my gosh. That would be pretty funny though. So we've got our first line in. Actually looks pretty cool.
Look at them stripes.
Look at them stripes. Them babies ain't got them stripes.
Oh my gosh.
Gonna have this stripe right here. That's a tough one because it's hard to see all the stripes, but at a certain point you just can't tell anymore, right? If I was a cheating man, I would not put any more stripes on the underside of this because you can't see it.
I'm glad you're not a cheating man.
I am tonight.
You're cheating.
I'm cheating. Cheating and creeping. Creeping and cheating. Or whatever it's called. Alright, so this one.
Cheating and creeping. You make it look so easy.
It's years of torture. Years of painting bad stripes has taught me to paint good stripes. And that's part of this. Just do it. You need to go to your home where you're at right now.
Oh my gosh.
Turn to your left, grab a paintbrush, and start putting stripes on models. That's really the key here. You know what? I actually like this girl with striped pants. She looks cool.
I know. We're going to continue painting her with striped pants.
No. Yeah,
Why?
maybe we are. So the funny thing is now we're going to have to paint the pants as stripes. Like the actual paint color.
Wow.
Pants color will be stripes.
You're...
There you have it.
Paul said disco cowgirl.
Yeah.
Why not?
Hey, there's nothing wrong with it. Actually, I think it's pretty cool.
I think so.
That's the one thing I really love about shadows is it's just like so far all over the place. Like you could literally be anyone or anything.
Yeah.
And I think it works.
It reminds me of a carnival.
Yeah. Carnival.
Yeah. Like Jesse said, kind of like a rodeo scene.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Actually, I've never been to a rodeo, so thank you very much.
I'm going to take you to one.
I
in
am
COVID,
neither
so-
a nerd nor a rodeo person.
Well, you're going to go.
You're going to learn. Y'all going to learn today. Can you tell me what comedy show that came from?
No.
Well, that's too bad. Somebody out there knows. Y'all going to learn today. Alright. So there's some stripes. Ta-da! So, if you were doing this on a bigger pair of pants where you could thicken those stripes up, I typically make the lines a little bit thicker so that you have thicker stripes. But on this, since it was so small going through these little areas, just leave it as is and you're good to go. So, let's get back to our kimono wearing sorceress. She's like, I'm going to get you. Zzz. This is from our set, babe. We get to keep this one. We get to keep all of these.
I know. I'm so excited.
I know. I feel like we've painted half of our heroes this evening.
But only half of them.
Only half of them.
Half of the half.
All right. So we've got this. See if I queued up my internet correctly. All right. Nothing bad showing. So we can show all the folks at home Some cool kimono type patterns. What's the name of the flower? It's
Cherry blossom?
Cherry blossom?
They're the pink flowers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. So one thing you want to pick when you're picking freehands, especially when you're starting, is do something that's a little bit easier. Something like this. I mean, maybe not these little patterns inside of her dress here, but these bright red lines look really cool, and that's something that you could emulate. And then you can kind of fake it, all these little patterns inside, you know, not doing something exactly the same. The hardest thing on here is if you have a really intricate pattern, it's going to be very hard to recreate it. So let's do something kind of like this, but different. So all these flowers are flipped over.
Let's do something like this, but different.
Let's do all the things that you want to do. All right, so we're gonna do something similar to that. We're gonna have some leaves, we're gonna have some bamboo stalks, and we're gonna have some flowers. That sounds like a party right there.
Oh yeah.
So we need to cut all those things into different shapes or smaller patterns. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Y'all, please excuse him. It has been a very long
We're
weekend.
breaking we're breaking all the rules. No, we're breaking the shape down into a smaller shape, basically. So let's do. I think those bamboo stalks are in the background. Now the question here will be: do we want them to actually be green, or is it okay if they are just a darker shade of reddish color? I don't know. What's the answer to that, Liz?
What was the question?
I don't know. Do we want the bamboo to be green, or do we want it to be? Because see, her kimono is
like
blue,
blue and teal.
which is massively different than an orange kimono.
Why don't you just stick with like little cherry blossom flowers?
Okay, let's do that.
Because they're, I don't know.
They're just fun, super fun. All right, so let's get some different colors out here. Ooh, what's this color? Oh, Oni red. I like that. We'll grab a pale flesh. I've got yellow. We've got it all. We do have a darker red. I think we already had that out. Crimson hand, yeah, we did. Okay, so let's start. Let's see what this Oni red looks like. So doing like little cherry blossom type flowers, we're gonna do a 5-petaled flower, and we're gonna just start with circles. So one of the things I do, so when you're mapping this out as well, one thing you really don't want to do, I mean you could do it, but it's gonna just add a lot of time to things, is you don't want every single flower to be the exact same size, because that is really difficult to replicate. That's a really hard pattern to replicate, especially on this girl. She's got the bottom part of her kimono, but also the top part and these big long sleeves. Having everything perfectly lined out would be a lot of using that piece of paper and probably messing up. So what I found on the one I did for the studio version, I actually started the flowers up on top are smaller, and they progressively get larger as it goes down. Part of this was me just being lazy, and I had less. If the flowers are bigger at the bottom, you don't have to do as many of them. And there was a lot of flowers in this girl, including magical effects and all that stuff. So it wasn't so much me being lazy. It just was like it was more practical to do it that way. So I'm gonna grab. What happened?
The orange isn't on the.
Ta-da! Oh, it is now. All right. So I think. So that orange looks like it will show up. But another thing with freehand is it is good to... oh, my voice is weird when I shake this bottle. It's good to have a dark line around it. So we are going to add a little bit of this crimson hand.
Esteban actually even suggested using dark red.
This is, I'm going to use the regular red and just put black into it, because that crimson hand is not mixing up, and we don't have time for me to mix it for 4 hours. So
Oh, it's not mixing up. Oh,
It's just see-through.
maybe it's an old.
It is an old pot. I should have used the other one, but hey, what do I know? All right, so we're gonna want a little bit of a dark outline around this. These are gonna be really bright flowers, but we need a little bit of a dark outline. So maybe we start like this. It doesn't matter which end is up. We're gonna just start with dots. So I'm gonna put a dot in the middle, and with this, I set it down and wiggle my brush around to get a dot. And then we'll do more dots. One.
What size brush are you using?
This is a size 0 Monument Igniter. So size 0, size 1, size 2. It doesn't really matter. If you're using a really good Klinsky sable, the point of your brush will be really tight. And you can pretty much use any size brush. But I'm using a size 0. It seems to work pretty well. So we'll go 1, 2 dots, 3 dots, 4 dots. What's the last one? Fifth dot.
Oh.
I'm just kidding.
I was about to say, is your brain breaking?
Yes. And then, so those dots are a pretty good pattern. The top dot is like the redheaded stepchild way out in the East 40. So we're gonna make that dot a little bit bigger so that it comes back to the pack a little bit, which is okay. You want organic shapes are kind of cool because they're forgiving. You don't have to be exactly perfect. So we got that one. While that's drying, I'm gonna do a couple more. The other thing I really like to do on these kimonos that makes it look really cool is crop them. So this one, I'm gonna put my dot right here. That's my center dot for this flower. And then I'll do this dot right there, this dot right here, this dot right there. We've got a part of a dot over here and a part of a dot over on this side. And then the rest is actually going to be this thing, her little, what is it, the hem or something? The
border.
Yeah, there's a border on this kimono. So maybe we'll make that really dark, which might look kind of cool.
I like that.
I like it too. Sometimes when you have really bright colored things, if you put really dark colored things next to them or as accents, it really, really shows up well. So we got like that. See how it just goes off the side. That looks cool. I like that. I used to work in t-shirts. We cropped things all the time. Looks cool. So as we go down, now we can start making things a little bit larger. So here's the other thing. You can't be afraid. You don't want to avoid every fold in the fabric. So like on this one, maybe we'll put this one, we'll start it right in the middle of that fold. So some of these dots will be on the underside of the fold. Some of the dots will be on the top side. That 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sometimes just because of the fold, the flower will look like a weird shape, and you just got to deal with it. Get over it, Liz. Get over it.
I'm trying.
Not everything needs to be symmetrical. Okay, as we get a little bit lower, I'm going to start making bigger dots. So, well, I'm going to try to make bigger dots. So all that, don't make them all the same size, and then watch, I'll make them all the same size. So this one, yep. So I'm holding my brush on the model a little bit longer and wiggling a little bit longer, and it seems to be making a little bit bigger flower petals. These are the ones when you buy your wife these ones, she's more happy than when you get the little ones.
What?
Or your mom. Actually, my mom never cared. She just liked that I got her flowers.
The same flower.
Yeah, the same flower. My mom only knows one flower in her life, and it's an orchid. Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I love that you double check. Yeah. That's what it was.
I don't know. I just think they're those pretty flowers you get at Vaughn's. Yeah. Or at the Home Depot, yeah. Is that where we got it the last time?
Yep. It was.
So another set of circles. We'll do Let's do a much bigger one down here because I keep telling you we're gonna make them bigger, and it just seems like they're the same size.
They are the same size.
I'm awful at this.
Get your act together.
All I wanted to do in life was make a bigger flower. It looks like Mickey Mouse at the start.
Oh, now I want pancakes.
Yeah, that would be pretty good. Alright, that one's a little bit bigger.
Yes.
And we're gonna go a little bit bigger. Right here. So here's the deal. When you're making these little dots, if you put just barely enough paint on your brush to get half a dot off, you're not gonna have a good day. You actually want that there to be pretty good amount of paint on your brush. And we'll go like this. You're just pressing really lightly so that it doesn't go crazy on you. All right. So we got a bunch of little flowers there. I could do 1,000 more, but we ain't gonna do that. We ain't got time for that, Liz.
Nope, we don't.
All right. Well, while that dries, my OCD will kick in. We need to paint the sides of this.
Move it up.
You can see a little bit of orange showing through on the side of that piece, so I'm just gonna paint that in. These are just your gaming figures, which oddly enough, this is my gaming figure, but normally you probably wouldn't care so much, but I mean, it doesn't take that much longer just to fix that little area. Get it all snippy and snappy. That looks pretty cool. All right, I'm gonna put a couple little branch leaves in here, or not leaves, but little branches. So while we're still in this dark color, maybe we'll go little line that comes through. Maybe it doesn't connect every single one of these, but maybe it comes down, stops. And we got another one over here that kind of comes through here, goes over this way, and then goes down to this really big one. There's a couple little lines in the background. Because believe me, once we start getting the lighter colors on here, you're not going to care about what's in the background, and it will actually look pretty cool, like sort of just background effects. So go a little bit right here and do a couple little extra branches. And I think that looks pretty good. You could technically have a branch out here in the open with nothing on it, but that's a little bit boring. But let's do it anyways.
Why not?
Why not? Sometimes we're just creating diversions. It's like a magician. Don't look over here, look over there. Alright, so we got that. I'm going to switch to our really orangey color, which also looks thin. That's okay. We're putting a big old blob on it. So here's where you start making your money. This is where the big bucks come in. Because we need to make dots inside those dots. And we're trying not to get rid of the entire black or dark circle. So I'm going to put on better glasses. All right. So we can see.
Deep breath.
Deep breath. All right. That is much better. I can see a lot closer. I'm going to do a test dot on my finger. I like that.
Ooh, look at that.
Look at that dot. My grandmother's name was Dot.
My aunt's name is Dot.
Dorothy to the layman.
Mm-hmm. Ooh.
Okay. I got a little bit too much paint on my brush.
Well,
I mean,
it still looks pretty though.
It was working. No. I mean, that worked, but my brush was starting to spread from the touching. So, just clean up my brush. This is definitely one of those things where you really, really want some magnification, because if you don't have it, it's very hard to tell. You know, if your pressure is hard enough or too hard, too soft, whatever. So we got that. I'm going to put these ones right here. I suppose you could do different color flowers. Maybe if, you know, depending on your kimono color, you could the colors of the flowers could kind of change maybe as it goes down the dress. That would be kind of cool. I don't know if that's they are in real life, but you're making the rules on this model, so you can do whatever you want. What's that, Liz? That's what you want to do?
Absolutely.
All right, well.
Wait, what do I want to do?
Change the color as it goes down the dress.
That would be kind of cool, though.
It would be kind of cool. So maybe we'll do that. So this dress is orange up top, which is funny that we're putting orange in the flowers up top and you can totally see them, but that Oni red is really, really a vibrant color. It's actually a perfect color for this because it shows up really well. I'm hitting all these again one more time because I'm a glutton for punishment. And you also notice I haven't done anything to the center circle. And I'm not going to. So leave me alone. We need a teal. No, maybe it's going to go to blue. Let's try that. Because I've got this Forbidden Fortress. Yamabushi blue. I like that. I like that word too.
I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but
I don't either.
it sounds like
I said it, and that's what it is. All right.
That is life.
That is life. All right, so let's put these at the very bottom. So I just in my brain, I just started thinking about how this is going to transition into that color. And that might be a problem because blue and orange make like brown.
Yes,
so
they
we're gonna have some brown flowers. So they're dying in the middle. It's no big deal. Let's just mix these colors up together and see what they actually make, because we're not surprised at all. That's exactly what I thought it would make. But you know what? It looks like poop. It's all right. It's all right. You know what, though? It still shows up. It's not like I was afraid that it would go brown and then it wouldn't show up at all. That actually, you know what? I actually like that. Liz, we've created a new color. It's called Borange.
Borange. I like that word.
This one.
Adria said, if you had planned to vary the colors from the start, would you have done a different dark color / outline for the different colors?
I don't think so, because I just needed a really dark color. Yeah. It might have mattered on a different color scheme, but this one, it works. So I'm okay with it. Like a dark red or a dark blue works with almost every color. So it was kind of safe. It was a safe choice to begin with. So, you know, it is what it is. All right. So this one will be a little bit more on the blue end. I am touching as lightly as I possibly can, because as soon as I push with this brush, it's going to do this. It's going to be bad. So a little bitty touch and then a little bitty spin of my brush, and I get it as close to a dot as I can. All right. That looks cool. Okay, so I'm going to do this crazy bodaciously yellow center of these flowers.
Bodaciously?
Bodacious.
40 minutes, by the way.
Bodacious.
Did you just lick that bottle?
No.
Oh.
But I need a paint mixer. That's what I need.
We can get one.
Here we go. That's some thick yellow paint. That's the way I like it. I like my paint like I like my paint. Thick.
Good answer.
Thick and gooey. Alright, so I'm going to put this paint on my brush. I'm going to roll my brush a little bit. It is really thick, but I really need my yellow to be really thick because... Actually, let's do this because this is not going to end good in any way, shape, or form. I've got white over here. Grab some of that. Spin it on my brush. And we're going to put white down first because there's almost no chance that this yellow is going to cover very well, even in its thick state. So the center of all these flowers is going to be a smaller version of the big petals. So we don't want it very big at all. Like that. Get some more.
So tiny.
It is so tiny. And again, if your flower petals aren't all exactly the same size or shape, it really is kind of okay. I mean, if they're way off, then they're way off. But it really does look a little bit more organic if it's kind of a little bit off here and there. I'll do this one. Maybe a little bit bigger than those other ones. There. I almost like it white. It's pretty cool.
I like the white.
All right. So now we're going to grab some yellow. I don't need it nearly as thick because we just made a white base for it. I almost can't tell if it's coming off or not.
I can't tell if it's focused or not. The dots are so tiny.
Yeah. There, little yellow dots in the center. I think that looks pretty cool. What's that? We need leaves? All right, Liz. Well, I have to pull my arm. We just made green.
Look at that.
With colors.
With colors.
So I used the tentacle blue and that yellow and just kind of mix it together. It actually makes a really good, sort of strange looking green, but I like it, like sort of a tealish green.
It just looks like green.
Yeah, that too. I'm looking at it from like 5 feet away though.
Yeah, you are.
It's amazing how the setup is. My painting rig is like all over the place. So with these, you just need little teardrop shapes. And you don't need, they don't even really have to be exactly a leaf shape.
Sorry.
Yeah, these are just super small, so it's going to be hard to see. So I'm kind of painting a line with a little circle at the end. That's a leaf. That's what a leaf looks like at that scale.
Do you have something like a white paper towel or something you can just kind of show them what shape it is?
So maybe like this. So I'm making like a line and then I make the end bigger like that. So it ends up looking kind of like a leaf. Man, paper towels was the wrong choice.
Sorry. I tried.
So here we go. Painting miniatures on a piece of paper. So you're doing a little bitty line and then at the end of it you wiggle and hopefully it comes out into kind of a leaf shape. So you kind of want a teardrop like that. It's not, I mean, it's not rocket surgery. at all.
Surgery.
It is just little leaves. And when you look at it, you see that little bit of green and you're like, oh yeah, those are leaves. You don't think anything else. I've never held my breath so much in painting classes in my life. Now I'm going the opposite way, so I have to make the leaf to go backwards. I need to go this way. Much easier. Maybe offset the leaves a little bit so they're not all right next to each other symmetrically. Put one right up here. You can make really tiny ones, bigger ones.
How would you highlight those? Or would you?
I wouldn't really highlight the leaves because they're so small. I think you're just going to cause confusion. So the fact that they're green and kind of in the shape of a leaf, I think works. Besides, if people are like looking at the detail of your leaves rather than the detail of the rest of the freehand, you probably did something really wrong. So hopefully nobody says anything. You could put a little highlight on it, but I really don't think it's necessary.
Right.
Okay, so another kind of cool thing to do. Let's see if this works. I'm gonna use our Uni orange, and I'm gonna put some sparkles. Not sparkles, but just little bits of
Polka dots?
little, I don't know, maybe it's just random little tiny flowers or whatever. Maybe it's just stuff blowing in the wind. Little bitty dots. And these could be maybe like a little bit different sizes too, but not so much. Like these are more like background noise that you're not supposed to really like don't pay attention to those things in the background. They're just kind of like pretty little sparkles going through the dress. I know I saw these somewhere, so I think...
The sparkles?
Yeah. But I can't remember. I looked at a lot of kimonos when I was doing this stuff. It might have been a Halloween dress or something like kimono or something, that wasn't quite historically accurate. But I just remember thinking it looked kind of cool. You could also do, like a lot of times they have the little tiny petals. So maybe on some of these branches right here, we just go a couple little boop, 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 boop. Maybe do a little 3-petaled flowers, little white ones. Not really sure what those are, but they grow right next to the leaves. Everybody knows that. Just gonna do all those little things. All right. So now we need some different kinds of. We need a wash. Not a watch, but a wash.
Wash.
I'm gonna use our strong tone wash. Maybe put it over here. We need it to be red though. So luckily, we've got all this dark red right here. Oh my goodness. I'll put that into our wash. Now we've made a red wash. Dark red wash. It's like blood red. And wipe that off because this is my actual wipe off brush. We'll do a couple little like glaze washes down at the bottom of this kimono. Let's hope this works. If it doesn't, Liz, if it doesn't, we're just going to turn this off as fast as possible. Make a run for the board.
Surprise, it was
Go, go, go. And we're done.
Yeah.
All right. So I've made a wash that's partially opaque. It looks really opaque on my brush. That is very opaque wash. Oops. No wonder I was grabbing from the wrong pile. Like, that's just like regular paint. Oh, it is.
That is regular paint.
All right. So I've made this dark wash. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on her dress and I'm going to wipe it off.
The smush and wiggle.
But I'm going to try to leave parts of it as opaque as I can. It's see-through though because it's a wash, so it's not going to be fully opaque. So let's put it way back here. I'm going to put it right over our freehand. Ah! Oh no!
Everybody cries.
Wipe that down. I'm going to wipe this other side because we're still going to put this wash over here, but we don't have any freehand over here, so we can't do it right now. So that kind of pushed that back a little bit. I think I need that to dry, and then we might put another layer on. But what this will do is it starts pushing that, it starts giving a little bit of a shadow to my freehand too, so it looks like I did a lot more than I actually did. You think I could put highlights on that freehand?
I don't know. It's pretty tiny.
It's pretty tiny.
It's also pretty bright already.
It's pretty bright already. Sound like a parrot.
You are a parrot.
I don't know if it enhances it all that much.
Yeah, I don't.
Maybe it does.
I think it was already like pretty bright.
It's going to be much harder to do up here. I mean, you could do it, but sometimes when things get so small, you don't necessarily need to put a bunch of highlights on things. You just need a really bright color to show through, to show that part. Okay, that dried. I'm going to add a little bit more water to it. We're going to go right up here in the front, like that. See, that covers up my freehand. We just uncover it. But I leave a little bit of it being covered. Maybe a little too much. There. I like that. Looks pretty cool. And I can put that same, now normally I'd be doing this towards a little bit further on in the project, so I can use that same sort of wash in between her little belt here. I'm sure it has a name, but I don't know what it is. Martha, the belt, or Ed. You never named your belts?
No. Do you name your belt?
No.
All right then.
It is what it is. All right, well.
That looks really cool though.
It actually came out pretty decent.
I mean,
I swore to myself when I finished that last kimono,
there was the
I was
last one.
never going to paint one again.
And darn it.
And
you
I
did.
lied to myself. I did. You know, it's not that bad. It is a little bit scary at first, but I think if you do the dot thing, I mean, shoot, you could have ones where it's only a small pattern, like just a couple flowers at the bottom, and then it goes up. It's just normally like just plain the rest of the dress. It can look really cool. Or just a couple flowers up here. Another fun thing to do, so I've painted the edge of this kimono. It's a dark color. I was hoping it was going to be black, but it didn't really look that black. But maybe grab some black and some blue and make a gray. And so that same flower pattern can go over onto that side thing. And of course, it's going to be much smaller and everything's going to be cropped. But I can put little bitty dots in this, just like the flower again. Maybe that one will just be one dot. I'll have a two dotter right down here. Sometimes you can just have the branch coming through. This is a completely different color scheme though, so it's same type of shapes. You're not going to see any one shape completely. I'm just going to see parts of them. What are you laughing at now?
Marianne said, "How did you paint the tattoo on the enforcer?" I mean, technically she said, "How in all holy hills did you?"
That came on the model.
So full of it.
I started by painting tiny flowers now. That one was much harder, and that was definitely a complex freehand. Both the enforcer and the female. Is the female an enforcer too? Like, do they call it? Is it the same thing on both? I can't remember if it's called the same thing.
I would assume
it's probably the same thing. Yeah, I mean, he has a dragon on his back, so that was exciting, but very similar to our cowgirl over here, which is funny because she's just like lines with dots on them. But I started that freehand by breaking each shape down into just dots. So if I had like the dragon coming out the back, I had my concept art right next to me that I was trying to copy, which helped. I may or may not have done a practice one on a piece of paper, which by the way, if you do a practice freehand on a piece of paper, cut that freehand out to be the exact size as your dress or close to it, because the first time I did it, I made the freehand way bigger and I was like, I can totally do this. And then I looked at the model and it was like a quarter of the size that I had to do. That was really hard. But basically I just started, if the dragons usually like are all circle eights and go spiral around. So I maybe put one where the head would go, one where the first curve starts, where the first curve ends, the next curve starts, the next curve ends, and then the tail stops there and kind of curves off to this way. And then I kind of put those pieces together. And then like on a dragon, you have to do the top part, which is scaly, and the bottom part, which is the flat scales. It's just a pain in the butt. But, I mean, it's all doable. You just don't breathe for like a week and a half and you're fine. Maybe for the next one, you guys should pester Scott and Jason and just be like, hey, we want Aaron to paint a dragon on an enforcer. And like that will be the whole thing. Because that honestly would take me maybe more than 2 hours. But I mean, it would be fun and just to see how it works. So I've got those. Then I come back in and make my dot. So on these ones, I'm doing these in like kind of a monotone. So sometimes I can't even remember what I drew. Like, was that a line or was that a dot? I don't know. So just highlight it. Call it a day.
Make it look like something.
Yeah, make it look like something. There's no mistakes, especially on these edge pieces, man. They are so freaking tiny. So I get that one. This one is kind of a curvy motion. Goes over there. And right there. Of course, these designs would flow all the way around the figure. So it looks a little bit weird when it's just right here, but when it goes all the way around the bottom, I mean, it's just a constant pattern. And maybe I would do this same monotone pattern on this part right here. That would look really cool. And it has so many folds in it that you could crop them all. It would just be like a jumbled mess of dots and lines and dashes and all that stuff. But when it's all said and done, it looks very impressive, as a whole. So put those in right there. Technically, I need a highlight down the side of this. So technically, I'll just put it in. Technically. Let me tell you something. This is technically going to happen. Maybe. I kind of like teaching the Flying Frog courses because it's so laid back. I don't have any schedule. I do have a schedule and time, but it's kind of just like, here's your model, go. That's kind of fun. I mean, I do like the scheduled classes too, of course, because they're much more intensive. But this is cool too. So I got a little bit of a line on there, little edge highlight. Keep that really thin. To be careful because this part is so small that edge highlight can actually ruin all our freehand that we just put on. Probably should have put it on first, and then that way I can intensify the freehand to match or overpower it. But that being said, that looks really cool. Holy moly! I'm impressed with that. You're impressed.
You're impressed with that I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
That is
I
so
can't
impressive.
even talk anymore.
I know. There we go. Nice highlight right there. I think a lot of times your brain fills in a lot of this information.
Yes.
You see a flower or you see some dots and you're like, that's a flower. You see all this stuff right here. It could be flowers. It could be some of this stuff. I don't know what it is, but it's stuff. It's there. It looks good. Cool. That looks pretty awesome. What do we got? 20 minutes?
18.
18 minutes. All right. What can we do in 18 minutes?
So many activities.
So many activities. Okay, so we're gonna do her little cummerbund here. So I've got dark red. Let's do a blue shadow. So I'm just gonna grab a bunch of my dark red here on my brush. This is what happens when you gotta go fast. And I'm gonna grab some of that blue on the tip of my brush. And we'll start in the shadow area with the blue. Move it forward. And then I'm pushing a little harder on my brush. And we're getting that red color up in front. Wipe my brush off. Add a little bit more of that red up here. And then I want to be a little bit more careful. I want that blue to be my shadows on this side. Even though that's like a little bit more in the highlight side of things, it's okay.
Experiment with colors.
There we go. I thought you said experiment with colors. I was like, what? Yeah, I mean,
to be fair,
I'm not a big fan
might
of.
have been the
I'm
words.
more of a wintergreen fan than a spearmint fan, so I was kind of like, yeah, I'll pass.
I'm sure everybody's like, I don't understand what's happening
I'm
anymore.
so over these two.
Yeah.
All right, so we got that on there. Let's blow dry. Go. 1, 2, 3. Hit it. Joe Salazar, go. One day we're going to have a Joe Salazar in a class, and that will be awesome.
I know.
I will love it.
Be like, why are you yelling my name?
Yeah. Just ask her a question. Sweet sounds of the blow dryer. It's a painter's best friend, I tell you.
Put me to sleep.
That's right. All right. Actually, they should just do next year. They should do 2-hour paint session with Aaron, and I just paint as many of my own personal figures as I can in that 2 hours.
That would be really fun. Hey, that would be a speed.
That would be awesome. Yeah.
A speed painting
I'd probably only
class.
finish like 1 or 2. That's okay. All right, so we got those in there. Let's continue our
Journey.
monochromatic
Paul
journey.
Martin said he'd be good with that.
Just watch Aaron paint for like a year and a half. That would be kind of fun. I'm not going to do those. I'm going to do lines. So we've showed the lines before. Maybe we'll do some interesting ones. I'm going to put one down the center here. So I just hit the upper edges of everything. I'm not going to worry about anything else right now. So the upper edges of that. I'm going to do one on right in the middle of her armpit. So down that one. And then we'll do one on the other side. Then we'll flip the model upside down. Go back the other way. I want to do something a little bit different with this. Tell me now. I'm going to do it anyways. And you were really slow on that one.
Me?
Yeah.
What did I do?
I said, tell me no, and you didn't do anything.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not awake currently.
There we go. Everyone's like, that's why our questions aren't being answered.
Yeah. So Bill said, what do you think of the idea floated yesterday? Oh, hold on. There it goes. Of an Egyptian tomb explored by Victorian English people a la oh my gosh, my mouth is not working. ATOE and Shadow's Adventures.
That would be super rad. So that is something that I think that the fans have been kicking around for a while. I don't know. Was that something that the Frog was doing, or?
Yeah.
Believe it, I live in Georgia, so I don't hear a whole lot.
Well, that and we were teaching a class.
Yeah, we were
yesterday,
teaching a
so we
class
have
yesterday,
not
so we have
been
no idea what
caught up.
has been going on. But let me tell you, I would be all in. Are you kidding me? Like, painting that stuff would be super sick.
He said it was on a fan hangout talk.
Yes. So that is something I heard those things. I think in the last Kickstarter, people were like, "Hey, or 2 Kickstarters ago, people were like, hey, if they're doing feudal Japan, that'd be really cool if they did Egypt. Yeah.
Babe.
And so, who knows? I would keep recommending it because I think it's a good idea. I would love to paint it. My dad is a huge history buff. And he has a whole bunch of King Tut books and stuff. And I grew up with that. And that would just be like super rad. I mean, just think of all the mythology and like all the gods and stuff that you could create. And just, you know, the bad guys, the good guys. All that stuff. All right. So I've kind of done a different kind of pattern here. I kind of curved out the bottoms of those lines. And then I put little toppers up there. That's what that's called. In the industry, we call that a topper. I'm making stuff up, by the way. You guys don't listen to me at all. I know Marianne and Esteban knows these things, but maybe not everyone else does. So.
To know not to listen to you.
Yeah.
Aaron's a little bit
eccentric. Out there?
out there.
Yeah, sometimes.
Esteban said I missed that lesson. Oh my goodness.
That one's just some putting in a little bit of highlights there. Again, this is kind of just quick and dirty. Like, that's the one thing I like about this style of freehand is since you're not painting a dragon, it's a little less pressure. So you should start making a line. It gets a little thick in one spot. You're like, oh, well, it kind of bulges out. The other ones can bulge out, and you just kind of go with whatever happens. But the better you get at this, all of a sudden you're going to be like, I think I could make something that actually looks like something real. And there you have it. But you got to start somewhere. You start with these little baby steps. Get lines, dots down. Make some little flowers. Fortunately, with Forbidden Fortress, you got plenty of flowers to paint, let me tell you. Like that. Put a highlight on the whole top body. Ooh.
What?
I have an interesting idea. I think maybe on her, I want to do black for the top part. So her kimono is black, and then it turns to orange at the bottom. And then I'll have like this really bright light up there that will shine onto the black.
Ooh, I like it.
That'd be kind of cool. Plus, it'll be a lot different from the studio version. The studio version was like orangey red, and the flowers were different, but it was all orangey red. And I remember that took me forever to paint. By the way, the studio version of this has a lot of freehand, and then the magic effect was glowing down over the freehand, and it was very complicated. So that being said, I think it'd be nice to do something different for sure. But I think that would look kind of cool, or maybe a bluish black, and then have like some different kinds of flowers on top, or no flowers. I think that looks pretty cool. Sweet. So any questions? Any answers? As you can see, you can...
I don't see either.
All right. Cool. I'm in and on a bang. I was very efficient with my time this time. So I can use some of that wash that I created to hit some of the some of these little folds. Just to make them a hair darker. Maybe it's not doing anything. I don't know. But it might be doing something. Also darkens the freehand right under there, so it looks like I spent a lot more time with that freehand than I actually did. Making the freehand different shades of color and stuff, whereas it's basically just washes. I can also do the same thing with my airbrush, but this isn't an airbrushing class. This is a painting class. So, and I think it's important to learn how to paint, before you learn how to airbrush. Right, Liz?
Yeah. You tell it.
Tell it like it is.
You have 7 minutes, by the way.
7 minutes. I don't know. I can't really do anything in 7 minutes, so... but I can answer questions.
Does anybody have any questions that you'd like answered?
Any final questions? Like, what are we having for dinner?
Taco Bell.
We are eating bad tonight, and that is so awesome. What do you think you're going to have, Liz?
Food. I have no idea.
Sweet. Okay, I can kind of bring some of these highlights across the top layers of even in the red. Like that. This one like this.
Everyone's super quiet, so I don't think anybody has any questions.
Everyone already fell asleep. It's like so late.
I mean, guys, y'all could literally ask any question.
As long as it's something I want to answer.
And as long as it's appropriate.
Yeah. Like, how many children has Aaron eaten? Quite a few.
Oh my gosh.
Probably something the frog didn't want me to let out, but,
Marianne said the sash is called an Obi.
An Obi-Wan Kenobi sash.
No. I'm assuming that's how you pronounce it, Marianne.
I like the Obi sashes. I think they're really cool, and it's a great way it's a great way to have like one pattern here, have another pattern in the sash, and then, the first pattern again on top.
Okay. Shoot. Hold on. Bill said, have you seen Dana Howell's videos on YouTube?
No. I know who he's talking about, though.
Okay. Adria said, have you tried out any contrast paints? If so, what do you think of them as another tool in the paint box?
Contrast paints are great. So let's grab one. Or not, if I can find it. Snake bite leather. So I've got two right here. So I've got Black Templar and Snake bite leather. These are really good, two really good paints. And the one thing I really like, so I'll just use the Snake bite leather for now. One thing I really like about them, they're already in a consistency where they're great for lining stuff. Obviously, you could paint them like contrast paints. You could just paint them over the whole thing and let them do their thing. But I also like them because like this color is a very dark blackish teal. And I can run it right down the cracks of her dress and get really good dark lines with it. And my brush, you know, because the paint flows so good, my brush stays super thin. I don't have any weird stuff happening. I could even put it, this is pretty dark, but I could try putting it in some of these folds down here just to kind of deepen them a little bit. Just a hair.
Didn't you use them in the airbrush?
I did, yeah. You can use them to tint the airbrush. So let's just let's turn this into an airbrushing class. Might as well, right? Oh, I left paint in it.
Of course you did. Of course you did. Oh my gosh.
Oh Lord. So look at that, it's still clean. We're good. We are good. So I'm gonna grab some of this, put it into my airbrush. This is the Reaper Vex, by the way, best airbrush in the world. I'm biased because I helped make it. I didn't make it, I just said, hey, this is kind of what I like in an airbrush, and they did it. It was cool. And then I tested it, and I liked it even more. So if we're doing this, let's see what this looks like up on her dress. See how that's starting to tint it darker black? And also I need to move my finished models out from behind it. All right, so I'm spraying right here. It actually covers pretty quickly. And you see I sprayed from below, so my upper highlights are still there. That's pretty cool. I'm going to try spraying at the bottom of this dress. So I can make that dress really, really dark, like flow into a really dark red very easily, actually. That's pretty cool. You can spray up in here to modify that sash. Or the, what was it called? A gyoza?
No.
That's a dumpling.
Obi.
An obi. So just kind of darkening those sides. Let's take a look at what I can do on this girl.
There you go.
Spraying back here at the back of her dress. Just a little bit darker like that. I think that looks kind of cool. Could darken the front. Could darken down here by her knee so it gives more shape to that leg.
Ooh, that looks really good.
It does look pretty cool. Let's go back to my little soldier here. My dude. So just something like that. Just a little bit darker. It looks pretty cool. I could do the back of his hat a little darker. It's great for tinting. Now, leave that right there so I can forget about it. If you were painting, like let's say, I think I will do the top of her in a darker color. So let's say if you were just using straight contrast, the way this stuff works the best is me and my friends found that doing a zenithal prime is pretty good, and you just put it on really thick. And then you let contrast do its thing. It needs to be on there real thick so that it can have a chance to flow and get, you know, down in the cracks, give you some highlights, that type of thing. So the thicker it goes on, the better. If If you're too fancy with it, doing thin layers isn't going to work. I've actually seen a lot of people in the Shadows of Brimstone community using these to really good effect, actually. And it can be very quick. I mean, if you're not worried about doing extra highlights and stuff like that, just you pop it on and you move on. Which, of course, you can do more highlights, but I think the real point of this paint is to speed everything up. You know, you're spending like half an hour per model. Like that. And see how it was on really thick and now it's starting to move down the model, I think, a little bit. You could I mean, shoot, even if you were planning on just painting this black, not contrast painting it, just to get an idea of what it would look like that's pretty cool. First impression. So yeah, very good. I do like contrast. It's awesome. Any other questions, or are we good to go?
I think we are good.
Alrighty. Well, hey, it has been a pleasure meeting with you guys tonight. If you got to watch both shows, great. If not, we recorded both, and we'll be posting them. I think the frogs will be posting them as well. So, yeah. And like I always say, go paint something. We'll talk to you guys later, all right? Let me see how to turn this thing off.